Let's talk about what we're here in Indy to discuss, and that is the first wave of NFL draft conversations, NFL draft coverage. I'm sure that you are slowly digging into this here for the work that you're doing for your YouTube channel, NFL Network, everything. What are your initial impressions of this group of quarterbacks as you have begun to study them?
Very top heavy, in my opinion. I would say the top 5 or 6 guys are probably, if you put them at the top, they're probably the deepest top 5 or 6 guys that we've seen in quite some time. And I like, obviously, like, I start with Caleb Williams, and I do think that just the more I hear, the more that, Ryan Poles talks, it's like, all right, they're going to trade Justin Fields. Like, I think they should keep him. We're not going to get into that, but I think they should keep Justin Fields. But okay.
But you have come to understand that it's probably not going to happen.
I get it. I mean, I would say it's like 95% chance not going to happen. And they're going to draft Caleb Williams. And like, when I'm talking Caleb Williams and watching, and, I've watched 3 to 5 games on each of these guys. So not a ton of film because it's still really early in the process, but automatically the thing that I understand that Caleb Williams does better than anyone is his arm strength and his pocket awareness. Like, it is so good. Like it is some of the best I've seen in a long time coming out. And that's a big deal. But I also think the escapability factor and the broken play potential, like Patrick Mahomes, I think that's really good. But I want to see him run an NFL offense. Like, very rarely do you see him go through progressions. Now, he does it, but like 1, 2, not there, take off, run, which is fine.
Do you think that says more about him, or do you think that says more about USC's offense over the last couple of years?
USC's offensive line this past year was really bad. So I think that probably says a lot about him. He's got to figure out this fumbling issue. It's a big deal. Only threw 5 interceptions, 3 against Notre Dame. So he protects the football when throwing the football. Pocket is not. I just think sometimes it can be a crutch when in the back of your head that you can just escape and make these amazing, crazy off-platform throws. It can almost be a crutch because you're like, I'll just do that every time. Well, these NFL guys, they don't want that every time. And they're like, well, look at Mahomes. Oh, yeah, Mahomes throws in pocket way more than you probably think. So I just think you need to learn to play
Happy Gilmore line, right? It's just like, well, I should just hit it in one shot every time. Right? It's like, if I could just run around for 8 seconds and throw a 50-yard touchdown every single play, I should just do that every time.
Yeah. And I just think, with him, the biggest thing is just like play within the offense and that sort of hero ball mentality that he has, like having to feel like he has to make every play at every time, like probably because of the USC offense, right? And they didn't have a lot of great weapons, especially this past year. When you get an NFL team, if you're in the right system with the right coach, you're gonna do just fine.
Let's remove the Justin Fields part of this equation. Let's say Justin Fields doesn't exist for our purposes right now. If you had the number 1 overall pick and you needed a quarterback, would you feel comfortable taking Caleb Williams?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. The reason I made that is this is going to be a super unpopular opinion, but I really like Jaden Daniels. I think that he's like Caleb Williams is probably the better prospect and better long-term answer, but dude, the more I watch Jaden Williams, it's just like, man, this kid can flat out play. But yeah, I'd be fine with taking Caleb Williams. Like, I think he's the safest bet probably for this class. But then you look at Jaden Williams, like I think
Jaden Daniels. Yeah.
Jaden Daniels. Sorry. Yeah. I said it correct the first time. Jaden Daniels for me, like Commanders, like Cliff Kingsbury, like Kyler Murray, like let's go. Right. Like it makes all the sense in the world to me. Like when I start watching him, I'm like, know what he does athletically. So I'm inclined to be like, all right, he's probably going to take off a lot more. The dude throws from within the pocket quite a bit. Now he's got an insane offensive line. Yeah, he's throwing to 2 first-round receivers, Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors, which I think the Chargers should take because he's a beast. But when you look at it, like he's got an insane arm. The ball jumps out of his hand. And I think for me, that was what really stood out because I wasn't sure what to expect. And obviously, like I watched the Florida game, the dude ran for like 250 some odd yards like in that game, which is insane, like breakaway speed. So he's a really unique combination of both pocket passer, but can get out of the pocket and run, plus runner. And I think nowadays that's what these offensive coordinator types want. Like that's what like needs to happen, and I think he does it. He's like obviously from his time at ASU, he's extremely accurate. This past year, completed almost 73% of his passes. I just think he's a little skinny. Like I think he takes too many hits. He's got to learn to get down. He's got to learn to not be able to because at this next level, as you know, it's going to get crazy.
Yeah, he looked like a crash test dummy in some of the clips that I've seen, and that's
What are
probably
we doing?
not going to be the best approach against NFL defenses. Is there a big gap between? Okay, let's tier it. Do you think that Caleb
Yeah.
Williams and Jaden Daniels are in the same tier of prospect?
No. So the tier is like the top three, which includes Drake May and Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams, right? Top three. You have top three. Then you have Caleb above them,
Okay.
just enough. But then I think the Jaden Daniels, Drake May can go back and forth.
So
I
those
see
two are
both.
close to you. So you think that Williams
Yeah.
separates himself a little bit,
Yeah,
and then the other
I
two
do.
are kind of on the same line.
Yeah, and then the other three, right? Bo Nix, JJ McCarthy, and Penix Jr. are below, and I think that there is a pretty decent gap between the top three and the bottom three.
So how do you feel like your Drake May thoughts align with what have been sort of the consensus draft community Drake May thoughts? Do you see a
Pretty
lot of the
good.
same things that other people have seen and said?
Yeah. I mean, look, so like my first year doing this, it's very easy for me to just look online and be like, all right, here's what these people think, and let me form my opinion of that. I didn't want to do that. So
Sure.
I don't know exactly what Drake May is being said, although I've talked to some offensive coordinators that really like him. Big, strong dude. Doesn't have a lot of experience. It seems like half of their offense at UNC is just him scrambling up the middle of the field. I think that there's some Justin Herbert to him. Maybe it's just the number, but he's big, he's strong, not as big as Justin. Can sling it. The arm strength stands out. The like make a broken play work with the left-handed throw versus Georgia Tech. Like that to me is like really good stuff to have. I just want to see him operate within the offense. Like he gets out of the pocket a little early at times. I feel like you could say that about everybody at this level because it's like, all right, hey, I can use my legs and run. And he's got a little bit of a gunslinger mentality, which can be good, can be bad. He's got to be able to hone that in a little bit. But I think that, I mean, like, I wouldn't be surprised if quarterbacks go 1, 2, and 3 in this draft. Like Patriots to me need a guy.
So that
like
was going to be my next question. Would you be comfortable with quarterbacks going 1, 2, and 3? You think all three of these guys are worth top 3 picks in this draft specifically?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do. I do. And look, the more you watch them, and I'm going to dig in really this weekend, and you really, it's like, all right, it's a combine. It's just a start of the evaluation process. Like I've talked to 3 separate offensive coordinators this week for teams. They've just started watching last week, these guys. So it's a long process. And I think guys that do this for a living, they've been watching them for a long time, like these draft experts, which I think is great. Like I think we need people like that. And I think when you start watching it and over time you get your opinion. And so that's just how I am right now, just now getting started on it.
So let's talk about the second tier guys. Do you have a favorite among that group that's maybe one step down from the top 3?
Yeah, I mean, once again, like I haven't read, but I know that people aren't in love with Bo Nix. I like Bo Nix, man. Like he played a ton of football at Auburn and Oregon, probably the most mature guy coming out in terms of like how he started at Auburn to how he is at Oregon. And listen, I get it. And I had NFL research look this up because I wanted to know. And I saw it in like 2 or 3 games that I've watched. Like 30% of his passes are at or behind the line of scrimmage. So there's that stat-wise thing that you're like, okay, can you throw it? But he's a super highly productive player. Everything that I've read or heard, like teammates love him. And there's something to be said about experience and been playing a lot. Like he's an older dude, and it just looks easy for him to throw it and to move around. And I think that's good. I think that's something you can say like, hey, you know, you look at your time at Auburn and you go to your time at Oregon, the dude's matured and the dude's gotten better every single year. And I think that's something to be said about that.
Putting you on the spot here, but I'm just curious. If you had all these guys, right, like any quarterback in this draft, and you could ask one question that you would want to know the answer to after going back and watching that film and needing some context, what would it be?
Man, that's a great question. So one question I could ask these guys
Just
from
like
watching it.
whether there was something about like the USC offense or something about the UNC offense or just something that it's like, oh man, I wish I had a little bit more context or information on this so I would have a clearer picture of who this guy is. What would it be for you?
Well, because that's actually a great question. Because of my thoughts on Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels, and I do think Jaden Daniels is creeping up in that stratosphere of Caleb Williams. Like, that's just me personally. Like, I could be completely wrong. I have no idea. But that's just my thought, is like, when you watch the USC offense, like, I just want to know it like the route concepts, they don't make sense to me. Like, and I could say this for a few others. Like, when I watch Jaden Daniels, I'm like, I see NFL concepts.
Yeah.
Like, I do. And when I see Drake May, I see NFL concepts. Bo Nix, not so much. JJ McCarthy, it is an NFL offense. And so I'm having trouble evaluating Caleb on some plays, or like getting my thoughts together, because I'm like, well, where is this ball supposed to go? And then he just gets out of the pocket, makes some crazy play, So I think that, to me, I probably would ask Caleb, like, hey, tell me a little bit more about how you see this offense.
Yeah. The intent of certain plays.
Yeah. And I think that's something too. It's like, we do that sometimes in the NFL. It's like, well, I think it should have gone this way, but that's not how it's being coached. Like, I think that's ultimately like, how is this being coached? Because I want to know. I think that's probably the question.